It started off with my nana and them. They came here in the early 1900s or 1913, and then my mum came to New Zealand when she was about 10, and then from there my dad came when he was about in his 20s and got married, and we had our first farm just in Whirikahu, just down the road from here. We bought it in 1978, and then from there we bought a property just across the road from where we are now in 1989, and we've been here ever since.
My grandfather came from India back in 1922, and he bought his first market gardening up at Pukekohe in 1944. And when Dad came over from India in 1950, he started working with my grandfather on the market garden. Then he went back and we came over in 1959. And then in 1964 he bought 10 acres of market gardening in Bombay. And then in 1970 he decided to milk cows instead, so we bought this farm in 1970 and moved down here in 1972. And then a few years later we bought the farm across the road, and another one, just dry stock unit just down the road. So, and yeah, that's how we came down milking cows.
Everybody's gone more intensive farming. It's not what it was back in the day. It was a bit more casual. It probably wasn't quite a business, but now, even since I've been started, I've been milking over 30 years now. And so ever since we've been farming it myself, it's a huge change. And just in the regulations and just what people are expecting of us dairy farmers. In the Gordonton, Whirikahu and Monzo area, there will be quite a few, or actually a lot. Especially if you go down Whirikahu Road, there's probably half the farms down there from Punjabis, Indians, and down Piaka Road, probably the same thing. And yeah, in this area we're probably renowned for farms around here.
Farming, mostly Punjabis, they are very widespread in the Waikato. Originally when we started, there were about 10 or 12 families, if that, they were owning dairy farms. This was back in 1960s and early 70s. But now, their children and their son-in-laws, yeah, we're very widespread now. And we are changing just as fast as the Europeans are, as far as production goes. In fact, you've been to Sipa's place. They got a herd home there that's, yeah, nobody else in the Waikato's got it. As far as the wider community goes, they were very helpful. There was no restrictions with whether we were Indians, European or whatever. There's no restrictions at all. You have the neighbours, they used to come and help you. If you're in difficulty, they'll come and help you. And even when we were making small bales of hay or silage, all the neighbours used to get together and make it together. So you move from one farm to the next as a group.
This is called the pit, and the cows, they walk up there and they stand here, so the cow's udder is about here. And then this is called a cup, and basically we just put it on each cow and slowly we go down, and 7 minutes later they all get milked. And then when they get milked, we go on the other side and milk another 20 cows. We also feed our cows meal and molasses. This is like a mix of meal and molasses. This is our milking room. This is our storage vat. It holds 6,800 litres of milk. This is our cooling vat. This is our chiller units and our milking machine and our teat spray system. Now these are the main things that you need to milk cows. This is our family dairy farm, which consists of 250 cows plus our young stock. And so we're supplying Fonterra, so we're in the business of milk and of providing the highest quality and as much milk as we can produce.
So how much milk did you produce last year?
I produced 111,000 milk solids, but I'm always averaging consistently above 100,000 milk solids. I've learnt through courses and from my father. Yeah, mainly from my father, from being on the farm since I was young, and then the theory side I've done through courses. I don't think it's widely known about how many maybe Indians or Punjabis are actually farming, but because they're such hard workers, their production will be above average, and so they're contributing above average, probably for their farm.
I was born and brought up in India, and I was very lucky that my parents sent me to the school, plus I went to the college. My older sister was here in New Zealand, and when I finished my graduation, and very hard to find a job, so I wrote a letter to my sister in New Zealand that asked him to send me a sponsorship. And what she done, she found a girl for me to marry. So I came here, and she is born in New Zealand. We never see each other before the day of marriage. And so we got married in 11th of April 1970. But anyhow, then we shifted to Monsville in 1972, July 1972. I was looking in the paper, then I saw a farmlet, 50-acre block with a house on it. October 1979, we bought that place. And because my wife was born and brought up on a dairy farm, she
knew
how to manage, but I know nothing about cattle. And then 1988, we bought a dairy farm, 100 acres. We stay on that farm till 2000 for 12 years, milking cows. We sold that and bought this at 2000. Yeah.
Well, we've been farming in the Waikato for about 50 years. Started off, first dairy farm was in Otahonga, then moved to a border farm in Huntly, and then about 40 years ago we settled here in Gordonton and just been expanding our business. My grandfather bought his first farm in the 1960s, yeah, and then my dad carried on farming and he bought his own farm. We've got 5 farms here just in Gordonton, yeah, within a sort of 3 kilometre radius. Yeah. This little area around here, Gordonton, Whirikahu, sort of Piaka Road, Whirikahu Road, there's been well-established Indian dairy farmers here for many years, 40 years, 50 years. You know, some of them been here 60 years. Yeah, and they've just all been from the same sort of area in India, from Punjab. So we've known each other from back there, then come here and basically helped each other out in the early times. There might be 100 families, yeah, and it's growing all the time. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of new people coming from India that are getting into the field as well now, because of the sort of maybe lack of English in the early days, lack of connections with other. With banking and that sort of stuff. So it was more coming in there, having with very little experience, trying to, get a loan and that was probably the hardest part. Was getting started, was actually trying to find something they could afford just to get their foot in the door. Yeah. So that's why a lot of the families started from out Tamanui, Otahonga way, and got started there, then sold, and then sort of moved up to this area in Waikato. Yeah.
I started dairy farm since around about 1960. Before that, my dad had a farm, in Tikoti. There was a sheep and cattle farm. Then we moved in Haraki Plain near Thames, Natia, 1960. So that's where I started the dairy farming. And after that, my dad passed away in 1972. Then we moved in 73, we moved into Pyako Road. So after Pyako Road, you know, this farm here and Saturn Road, we bought it in 2001.
Like Dad mentioned, you know, like the sons have taken over their parents' farms and they've expanded quite a lot since, you know, since their parents as well. And there is a broad, quite a majority of Indian farms, especially around this Waikato area, which have, you know, old school families, which have, you know, just generations and generations just continuously growing from there on. Yeah. This section here, there's like, you know, that's the early settlers that came. They have all sort of settled in this area, and this is mostly one of the prime Waikato areas in dairy farming, and that's where they've sort of stuck as well. But the new generation farmers, the new people that are coming, they are expanding into other areas. I mean, not to say that there are other families out Tiamudu ways, you know, and stuff like that. But the original ones that first came, they're still settling in this area, and most people know that the Indian community is pretty big, especially in this region.